Words from Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help will come from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth.
This synagogue is our house of comfort. Wounded by loss, this synagogue gathers us in. Into this place we bring our stories, our prayers, and our unanswered questions, our tears that need to be shed, moments of courage, of laughter, and pain. For this place embraces them all, just as this place embraces us all. All that we love, we must lose. So we hold fast to the love that remains. Together, all of us walk the mourner's path today. Together, we find strength. Death has taken our beloved Janet Engelhart Gutterman. And so, as our friends grieve in their darkened world, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator. In light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death.
Adonai roi lo echsar binot de sheyar bitseni al menuchot nafshi Yishovev, Yishovev, Yancheni v'magle tzedek, Yancheni v'magle tzedek, liman shemo. Gam kelech b'gitz hamavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha u'mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taruch lifanai, lifanai, shulchan gitzorarai. Die Shanta Vashem en Roshi Kosi Rivaya. Ach tov chesed yerdifuni koyemechayai, koyemechayai, vishavti b'vet Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar. Adonai roi lo echsar.
If you are familiar and comfortable, I invite you to join me in the English translation of those ancient words of comfort from Psalm 23 that Cantor Seploin just sang. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As we remember Janet this morning, the words of the poet come to mind. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, knowing even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. We take a moment with our own thoughts and memories, each recalling the multitude of ways that Janet loved and lifted each of us. Friends, this morning we are a community of mourners. We are united in our yearning to help Les, Allison, Risa and Charlie, Rebecca and Elizabeth carry the burden of their loss. Many broken hearts may not make a whole, but we are here to try. This outpouring of grief and support is a testament for the great love for all of you and for the expansive and incredible reach of Janet's spirit. We pray that the dear ones assembled both near and far walk with you through this dark valley, providing a measure of comfort and solace. Les, you and Janet have been a model of what a loving partnership can be. Elizabeth remembers your engagement party, a celebration where there was no real sense of his or hers, but only ours, our friends, and our family. That captures the essence of Les and Janet's love and partnership. That is a vision we hold dear as we embrace you with our support. As a mother, Janet was ever present for Allison. She made sure that Allie had a strong foundation in everything, educationally, Jewishly, and to walk through life. Janet nurtured and guided and supported her every step of the way. Janet was so overjoyed to welcome Matt to the family. And how Janet reveled in being a grandmother. Her embrace of Daniel, Ben, and Jonah was beyond compare. She just adored them, recognizing each for their uniqueness. She would light up with her trademark smile, you can see it, as she shared their latest funny words, adventures, and their newest growth. They were her greatest joy. Janet's warm embrace of Rebecca and Elizabeth was seamless. As Elizabeth said, Janet helped to launch me, picking up where my mother left off. We talked some about being a step family, but mostly, Janet just loved us. Rebecca adds these words, Janet put our family back together. I remember leaving a family Seder when she and my dad had been married for a few years. Allie was there too, and as I drove home, I thought, we're so lucky. Janet gave us that. It's no surprise that Janet also welcomed Michael to the family with open arms, and they shared a special relationship, appreciating what it means to be a rabbinic spouse. Allison, Rebecca, and Elizabeth can all testify to Janet's ability to step up without overstepping as a mother. Lizzie remembers how when Janet saw that she was using the same American Tourister carry-on bag that she received for high school graduation, Janet immediately took her shopping and bought a more appropriate three-piece luggage set. And she helped Lizzie pick out her first set of everyday dishes so she'd have something beautiful instead of hand-me-downs. For Janet did have an impeccable sense of style. She always sported beautiful clothing and jewelry, and she chose the most thoughtful and perfect gifts. She was the one to consult with any question on protocol and always seemed to have the right words for any situation. To Janet's sister, Risa, she was like a second mother. She taught her to sew, stayed with her when she had pneumonia, and was her babysitter. Janet included Risa on everything and was ever available for her. If there was a crisis, medical or otherwise, Janet would be on a train immediately to be the first person there with her loving care. Risa, Allison, all of Janet's dear ones knew that they could call at any time, even in the middle of the night, and Janet would be there. Risa reminded me how much Janet loved the ocean. Risa, Janet, and Charlie spent many a joyful day at Jones Beach as children. When Janet lived in Pittsburgh, it was the Delaware shore where she would love to spend her time each year. And later, on the Cape in Orleans with Les, Janet found that same peace that only salt water can bring. The ocean held a healing magic for her. Janet delighted in natural beauty, and the beach and the waves were her happy place. Like her own mother, Janet derived great pleasure in bringing people together. She was a born entertainer. She loved to bake and to cook and to set, of course, a beautiful table. For the past 20 years, Janet has traveled to New York the day before Thanksgiving to cook the Thanksgiving and trimmings with Risa. How Janet loved spending that holiday with her extended family, for she grew up surrounded by cousins and aunts and uncles and delighted in connecting and reconnecting with these dear ones each year. Janet was a loving aunt to Anya, Quentin, and Justin. Anya remembers how when their grandmother died, Janet was the one to shoulder the role of sending cards and birthday presents each year. It's no surprise, knowing of Janet's steadfast and dedication, that she assembled lifelong friends from each phase of her life. Janet kept in touch across the distance and years with extended family and friends. Janet thought only the best about everyone. She didn't dwell in faults or hold grudges. She was an artist in diplomacy and repair and didn't know how to have a bad relationship. Accompanying Les through leadership and congregational life for these past years, Janet was open-hearted and warm. But make no mistake, she held her own space in the hearts of our Temple family, as a leader in our community, and for all who were lucky enough to know her. It's sometimes hard for us to think of a world beyond Rhode Island, but Janet brought with her exceptional professional experience from Pittsburgh. She earned the respect of community leaders and colleagues alike through her generous spirit and through her talent in the Jewish communal realm. Many may not have known about the wealth of her professional accomplishments because of her humility. In Pittsburgh, she was groundbreaking in her strategic planning work. She earned awards for refugee resettlement and was unflinching in her advocacy for global Jewry. I remember Janet once sharing her experience being detained in solitary confinement for hours by Soviet officials while leading a mission to support Russian Jews. We were the beneficiary of this expertise here in Rhode Island, where as the president of the Jewish Federation, she raised record funds, merged the Voice and the Herald, and led the then Federation to a position of strength. Janet didn't give a whit about prestige or honor. She just showed up and did the work without the need for recognition. Janet forged a new chapter in retirement, once again, teaching all of us how to navigate transition and change with her trademark grace and open-heartedness. Janet loved her role as a docent at the RISD Museum, a born teacher, for those were her roots. She started as a second-grade teacher in Fort Lee. Janet returned to this love and found such joy introducing children to a museum for the first time. She became one of RISD's very best docents, and in the process discovered her own hidden artistic talent. At every stage of her life, Janet had a way of taking young women under her wing and nurturing them through challenges. Rebecca's words capture this so very perfectly. She writes, Janet was so generous and loving and supportive. Rebecca writes, I turned to her with professional triumphs and frustrations. Janet always had the right way of framing an issue, complete with tips, helpful phrases, and difficult conversation starters, more than any of us can count. I can tell you, her stability, her practicality was so comforting. She could talk even the most panicked professional off a cliff. When anyone who ever turned to Janet for her sage advice, myself included, will know that if something passed what we might call the Janet test, it was for sure sound, thoughtful, and compassionate. So many of us today here are beneficiaries of this gift and will continue to hear Janet's voice saying, "Amazing," with her enthusiasm and her bright smile. We will continue to channel her support, her perspective, and her gentle wisdom. When I think of Janet, I'm reminded of a story from the Talmud about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who asked his disciples, "What is the most important virtue that a person should strive for?" His disciples responded in kind, giving tzedakah, being a good neighbor, caring for the vulnerable, until finally Rabbi Eliezer stepped forward and said, "A generous heart encompasses them all." Janet Engelhart Gutterman lived the very definition of a generous heart. As her brother Charlie toasted at Les and Janet's wedding, Janet has the biggest heart in the world. Within minutes of sharing her death with the rabbinic community this week, there was a response from a colleague who wrote, "Janet was my first friend at work in Pittsburgh." For Janet never waited to be the one to reach out with a kind word and a welcoming hand. She just had that talent for touching lives. Janet always had the right words at the right moment. Even in illness, Janet modeled grace and dignity. She continued to care for her dear ones and guide us with wisdom. We offer our gratitude this morning for Dr. Howard Safran for his committed and compassionate care, and to Dr. Fred Schiffman, who guided and guarded Les and Janet through these last difficult months. Janet taught us all to pay attention to the beautiful blossoms that she so loved. How many of us here today texted and emailed her pictures of blooms, hoping to ease her suffering in these past months? Janet continued to bring light to our lives, even in the midst of her own pain. Simply, Janet made our lives brighter. Even in death, Janet's light and spirit bring us comfort. Her open-heartedness instructs us. Poet Yehuda Amichai writes that there is nothing more beautiful than memory. Janet's memory is second only to her presence. When we see the ocean, when we notice a fragrant bloom, when we are the first one to reach out a welcoming hand, or prepare a lavish feast to gather our dear ones around the table, we will remember Janet Engelhart Gutterman, a generous, spirited, deeply caring woman who left us too soon. She made our lives brighter. How we will miss her. We rise for El Malei Rachmim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzim Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kiddushim Utihorim, Kezohar Harakim Asirim, Et Nishmat Shein Yehudit Bat Moshe Ubatya, Shehalcha Leolama, Ba'al HaRachamim, יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Shena Yehudit Bat Moshe Batya, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance, as we say together in faith. Amen.